All right. Hi, I'm Madison Terry, and welcome back to The Wire, Women in Real Estate. All right. Our guests today are Miss Brittany Colombo and Tia Attoma.
Hello.
Brittany. Yeah, for sure. Yes, girls, welcome to the podcast. I'd love to have you guys on The Wire today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Yes. So the topic that I really want to touch with y'all today is mainly about negotiations. So let's start. Let's go about the negotiation skills and the art of closing deals. That kind of rhymes. I like that.
Yeah, I'm down.
Okay, so let's start off with what is a big negotiation achievement that you've had recently that you would say like a highlight?
A big negotiation achievement.
Yeah.
Man, there's so many wins. How do you pick one?
Right.
Okay, well, I will say that Brittany and I, after years and years and years of being friends, were doing a deal together.
Finally, we're doing a deal together.
And I think that was a big win, I think, for both of us. I think the deal is a big win for both of us. But I will say, I don't know, maybe this isn't a win, maybe just more like a reflection on an experience, but it was cool because we're very similar in our negotiation styles, I think.
Yeah. Which can be challenging.
So
I think
that
when
was
you
what it
actually
was.
have someone that negotiates similarly to you on the other side, because a lot of times I think when you become successful in negotiating, you're used to negotiating with people that are
not
in the same style as
Okay,
you, or not as
harsh.
good. Right?
Maybe that was a little harsh, but
And we're like, wow, we're really like going up against the best here.
So it was cool because we were I thought it was cool because we put the friendship literally aside and we're both like going for it for our clients. And then finally I had to say to my clients, I'm like, listen, I know this agent and neither one of us will stop. And that is the truth. Neither one of us is going to stop. And so, but ultimately, I think that kind of leads back to like what negotiation is at the end. I think you sometimes just have to put your ego aside and realize like the big picture, you know?
Yep. And it's getting the win for your client, which ultimately it's a win for both parties at the end of the day.
Right. Like it's a win-win, lose-lose. Like either both parties are giving, both parties are winning, and that's how we have to move forward. And I think that was just like a cool experience to just kind of duke it out with Britt. That was fun.
Definitely.
And
especially because we got it under contract.
Yeah. Especially since it was like finally like we really did find the win-win.
Yes.
And I think both of our clients had to make concessions to move forward.
Yep.
And so that was I don't know, maybe that was a win. I'm going to call that a win.
I think that was definitely a win.
Triumph.
And just because of the complexity of the deal, I think it was really cool too, because I think that we both grew a lot as agents, just learning the different complexities of how the county works on things. I mean, it's a very
huge.
complex
It's
deal
vast.
with a lot of different special stipulations. The number of times that we had to utilize our closing attorney to ask on how to write certain stipulations to really get to the win, I think was, I don't know, I think we just both probably grew a lot.
It was for sure, I think, the most intricate deal I've done.
Definitely for me too, hands down.
It was, and that was hard to feel. It was a little hard to feel confident in negotiating because you're learning something brand new
at the same time.
It wasn't a normal residential real estate transaction. This was like, borderline commercial, like big
on there.
For sure. Even though it was like disguised as a residential deal, it was definitely not that way. So, anyway.
I had another like good one recently. Just I think it's it was definitely a win in the market that we're moving into right now. It's a lot. I think the buyers are finally having a lot more negotiating power than they did for a few years prior.
Yeah.
And so we did one this year that was in St. Ives, and they were listed at like 1.95, and we ended up closing for I was on the buy side, and we got them under contract at 1.825.
That's awesome.
And got them an additional $21,000 towards closing costs. So that was like a big one. And the house was in good shape, but it was just a matter of you take it in the negotiation in stages, right? So you got your initial, and then after you have your due diligence period, we were able to get another large chunk, because there was a lot of repairs that needed to be done on that house. And so, I felt like that was a really big win, especially anytime that you get your client like more off the price than even what the standard like sale to list price ratio is for the time. I feel like you've got to feel like pretty good about that.
And in St. Ives, it's a desirable community. So that's a huge one. Oh, good.
That's so good.
How'd you do that?
Right. And they were only going to offer 2.5%, and they got the 3% commission. So let's go.
Period. I love it. That is awesome. Okay. So obviously negotiation isn't just about numbers. It's about strategy, relationship building, and confidence. What do you believe are the core elements of a successful negotiation?
You have to understand what people are trying to achieve. I think in real estate, we like immediately go for price all the time. And that's honestly not everybody's motivation in doing real estate is such a personal interaction. I teach this in classes a lot. It's called the 4 quadrants, and it's the positive present, positive future, negative present, negative future. And you really gotta, at your first conversation, your first or second conversation with your client, go through all of those quadrants to really understand what's going on in their life before you just go set out and go negotiating on their behalf. Because if you don't understand what's going on in their life,
then how are you going to fight for them?
How are you going to actually achieve a true win for them when you don't know what a true win for them would be? I think people go surface level a lot, and surface level is price. Getting the sellers the most, getting the buyers to pay the least, that is the surface level win. But I think there's a lot more. There's a ton more in that goes into a deal than that, in real estate specifically, I think.
And I even think not even just the negotiation of obviously the contract when you're going under contract, but even, our negotiation starts when we meet sometimes with the buyer or seller, and you're trying to win their business too. And I think there's a whole level of negotiation that happens there. And even I know I just recently went on a listing appointment, and this seller had met with a couple of agents, and I knew that they were feeling not super maybe happy about price that the other agent had quoted to them. I don't know what that price was, but just that was the sense that I got. But in talking to them, I could tell that some of their fears were actually that they were not going to have a place to live because they didn't know where they were going to go, basically. And so I kind of suggested to them, I said, well, we can always try and structure in a lease back for you so that, you have time. They're older. And so they were concerned about, having time to move into their new house. And nobody had ever presented that to them before. And this was the first time that they had ever even heard about that. And they were like, wow, that's something that you could facilitate for us and everything. And I really think that, even those sort of things, it may not have even been the price point coming in that made a difference to them. And so like Tia's saying, knowing what people's motivation is now, if we do end up listing their house, that could be a larger motivating factor for them in the negotiation process of a contract of getting the lease back than maybe even prices. So if you don't know those things heading into it, you're not going to be able to best get that win for your client at the end of the day.
Ask questions and listen.
Questions for
Definitely.
Sure. I think that's a big thing that a lot of new agents that don't understand.
New and old.
Yes.
And old,
it is said that if you're the one that's asking the questions, you're actually in the position of power. Those that are doing the talking are actually in the weaker position in a negotiation. So a lot of times you want to be the one that's actually staying more quiet and letting the other person give up their cards instead of you being the one talking too much. Which is something I'm always working on.
That's when I'm still trying.
I battle that every day.
Yes. I think a lot of agents feel that way though, because we feel like we're always the ones having to give the information and be the one speaking. But a lot of times when you're even negotiating with your client to get them to accept an offer that that they need to accept, it's asking that question sometimes and then just shutting up and letting them actually have the time to process and think about it, and saying, well, if you don't take this offer, what happens? I'm letting them just like mull that over. You know what I
Right.
mean? If you don't accept this and you don't get another offer, what does that look like for you? You know, instead of giving them what that, you know, just letting them think about those things.
Yes.
Sometimes they come to the answer themselves.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes. So have you had like any like horror stories with like negotiations? Like that just went awful, terrible, like
You want to start?
you're like
It's never happened to me ever. No,
I was gonna say I have one.
Everything works out.
No, I'm. There's probably too many to count. I don't know. I think at the end of it, I don't ever walk away from it like saying like, wow, that was a disaster. It's like, all right, how could I have learned from that? You know, like,
I love that.
You know,
I love
how
that.
can I, like, how could I have kept the deal together? Should the deal have been kept together?
Yeah.
Yes.
And truthfully though, I mean, I'm pretty faith-based, and so that also helps me let go of stuff. You know what I mean? It's really easy to get
100%.
super emotionally attached to a deal. And it was definitely that way when I didn't leave my business faith-based. And now for me personally, it's like we just terminated on a deal 3 days before close. And I think both sides, well, you know, whatever. I think the seller's side missed a few steps. We were on the buy side, and so then I got my client's earnest money back and, you know, protect, you know, that. So that was, I guess, a win on our side.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I think I just, you know, kind of walked away from that like, man, where was the miss, you know, on where could I have helped my client make that decision sooner, even if it was going to terminate, like, you know, we're 45 days in, right? It's a lot of time for attorneys, for lenders. It's not just us that's got time into it. So, you know, I was kind of bearing the weight of that, but ultimately it's just not meant to be. God's got it all straightened out. So it's just, I don't really walk away from stuff feeling, I just walk away with stuff maybe with peace a little bit quicker these days. And it has not always been that way for me. Definitely not. But recently it's just, you know, why stress? There's another one. You're right. There's another one down in the corner.
Yeah, and I feel like it's important to be like positive in situations like that, especially because I feel like when you just let it overconsume you, it just totally doesn't give you any motivation. It totally just takes you out, and it's like, okay, well, maybe, you know, real estate's not for me, because I feel like that's a big problem with like new agents nowadays, because they're like, I don't know, like I just feel like this isn't like for me, and I'm like, okay, well, like take it back, you know, like look, reassess, like look at what you could have done different. And I feel like they just freak out and they're like, no, I'm gonna jump ship, and then it's like at that point, you know, it's difficult.
I think it's really hard not to take it personally. We're in people's homes, right? We're talking about people's livelihoods, people, you know, really intense stuff. So it is
their biggest financial asset in majority of cases, you know?
Yeah, that's 100%. A lot of pressure. I'm not saying that it's not, I'm not trying to diminish that, but it is easier to take it personal. But at the end of the day, you just have to realize that all you can do is do the best that you can do, and then everything else is out of your control. And it's not every deal is meant to be. And I've earned, I think, more lifelong clients giving grace after a deal terminates, and people are just so blown away with how at peace I am. I'm like, oh man, it just means it's not ours. I was like, you're gonna sit at a closing table someday. You're gonna feel good about it. And I was like, we're good. And people are like, wow, this is crazy. You know, because they feel disappointed. They feel like they're letting me down. I'm like, you're not letting me down. I'm like, I would rather figure this out before we sign papers. Now you call me a month afterward. I mean,
for sure.
There's been people, and I've listed a house where they literally said they bought a house with another agent and knew it wasn't for them, but felt so uncomfortable to terminate. That they went through with the deal and sold their house a month later. Because I'm like, man, I don't ever want to be that agent.
No.
You know, that somebody feels so uncomfy. Like, I'm like,
it's not worth it.
Well, I think even being on like the seller side too, you know, like it's always disappointing when you get, you know what I mean, when you get the buyer that terminates, right? But I think it's like continuing to reaffirm to them that, that there had to have been a reason why that buyer just was like not meant for us. You know what I mean? And whether it's that a better offer comes along, which sometimes that really does happen, they end up closing for more, than the first offer they took, or even if you don't, maybe there was something that was going to happen during that transaction, or they were going to be, a challenging buyer to work with, or, who knows what the situation might have been. But I think it's encouraging them. I mean, we've had houses, and I'm sure you have probably too, where they've gone through 3 or 4 terminations before they get to the closing table. And that's a hard thing to overcome when it's not, a lot of times it's not our fault. It's not that we could have even gotten that person there. It's like we try every trick in the book to get it to the closing table, but sometimes it's just that's not meant to be your buyer,
Yeah. I mean, I was walking in this room and was negotiating and like, this is at an impasse then. And you just have to be okay with letting things go, and so that better things can come your way, I guess.
I like that. I like that.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes you just honestly are negotiating with people that are completely unreasonable. And that is a real thing. And sometimes the deal just simply won't get there because there's people that just are not living in reality. And I think that's something that I personally struggle with because I think that Tia is very similar to me in this, that we come with a lot of data and facts and comps, and you can really support where you're coming in from. And I think our clients feel good knowing that we know what we're talking about. We can bring the data and all of this stuff. And ultimately, you can put everything in front of somebody and they can still sit there and go, no, I don't think it's worth that. Or, no, I don't think that's the price. And at the end of the day, you can't always, even the best negotiators may not be able to work with unreasonable. So, you know.
Yeah. And logic makes people think and emotion makes people act. So if you haven't hit the emotional button, you, as real estate agents, we have to inform, but sometimes people are intellectually dishonest with you. You can ask all the right questions and they're not going to reveal their cards. And it's not because we're trying to use that to manipulate them or get it. It's genuinely so we can get on the same page and know what back to your first question, we want to know what we're negotiating for here.
Right.
So unless you give me that information, I'm not going to be of any service to you. But sometimes, like she said, there's just crazy people out there. So
it's a while.
Did you have a crazy one? I was like, oh yeah,
Oh, well, that was one of the ones I was thinking of that I just had, one of my clients made an offer on some land actually. And we just provided all of the data. Here's the most recent comps. Here's, what the sale to list price is. They provided all of that information. They were saying that their land value was worth what the tax assessment was on their property.
Sir,
and I
said, go fight your taxes.
We should, right, exactly. And I said, and I provided multiple instances of why the neighbor's house, who had more land and actually a dock, this was on the lake, and then this one didn't have a dock, had a lower tax assessment for their land with the dock than this one that didn't have a dock. And I said, see, this just goes to prove why it's not a reasonable number. Right. And just instead of actually acknowledging any of the information that was provided, I just was attacked instead. And so, at some point, it's just, there's just people that are not going to be reasonable. And it's okay, I guess it's just not going to be a deal for us at the end of the day. So that one was pretty crazy when you actually just get someone that can't, there's nothing to back up what they have to say. So then they just attack you instead.
People are so intense.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Listen, you can lead you can lead the horse to water, but you can't make it drink.
Right, exactly. Right. And that's literally what it is,
Yes, that is insane. All right. So what is some advice that you would give some people, any new agents listening into the podcast? What are some tips that you would give to a new agent that is starting out that totally has no idea about negotiations and wants a starting point? What would be something that you could offer to give?
You should have a good mentor.
Yes.
That's my first statement is going to be you should have a good mentor. I had a great mentor when I was starting out, and then married my other mentor.
Marry your mentor, folks.
Yeah, marry your mentor, folks. I would say overall, if you truly don't know what you're doing, you should definitely have a pretty solid soundboard for yourself.
Yes.
Just somebody that has more experience.
Mm-hmm.
And other than that,
there's some good books out there. I've read Never Split the Difference. It's a great negotiating book. I got a lot out of that. So I would definitely say, if you don't have someone, like, read. I mean, there's so much out there for negotiation. Like, that book is about the guy who wrote it did hostage negotiation for years. And so he talks about all of the different negotiating strategies that he used for literally the highest level of stakes, people's lives literally at stake. And like what kind of negotiation tactics, like, when you're using against terrorists, basically,
insane.
And it was just, I learned like so much from that. And I will say one of the things that I felt like was relatable in like a Keller Williams sense is that he does teach a lot on like the win-win in a negotiating. But what I got more out of that from that book in particular was that majority of people in life actually grow up in a win-lose mentality. And I've actually found that to be the case with a lot of clients that I've worked for. And what that kind of means is that regardless of what side you're on, if you're on the buy or the sell side, that your client doesn't feel like they've got a win unless they feel as though the other client lost. Right. And so the interesting thing is a lot of people don't think it. They're like, yeah, win-win, like both people were happy, we compromised. Win-win actually is not a compromise. Win-win means that both parties actually felt that their true goal, which may not always be just truly financial, like Tia was saying, was equally met on both sides. And where a lot of people grow up in the win-lose mentality, which I thought was really interesting, was in school. That, basically when they grade on a curve, well, that means for you to get an A, someone else had to get a C or a D, right? When you are on sports, for you to win, someone else had to lose, right? No one's a winner unless there was a loser. When you're talking about brother and sister or, sibling mentalities, that a lot of parents grow up and they compare sibling against each other. Well, this sibling did this better than this one, and so they only felt, even the sibling that did well only felt that they achieved something if they did better than their other sibling, right? And so in so many aspects of life, even if you look at attorneys, for instance, and law cases, well, they only won the case if, whether their client was guilty or not, there's someone that won and someone that lost ultimately, regardless of what was right or wrong. And so a lot of people have been conditioned their whole life on the win-lose mentality. And so I've found that when I go in and actually kind of explain that to sellers or buyers, but I think a lot of times sellers really feel like unless they got one over on the buyer, like they didn't like really win,
Especially in this market.
Especially in the market we're in now. And so it's explaining to them, hey, if we have the buyer actually feel like they won in this scenario, they're going to be easier to work with, and we're actually going to have a better probability of getting them to the closing table. So your win is actually the buyer also winning, because that's how we actually get this thing to the closing, and that you have the smoothest, most enjoyable transaction, which is ultimately what we hope for people, because we've had a lot of hellacious transactions, I'm sure, where the parties come out hating each other at the end of the day, and like nobody wants that. And sometimes we still get to the closing table, but boy, it would have been a whole lot better if both people felt like they were winning in it. And so that's one thing that I can really say for new agents is have that conversation with your clients and explain to them a win for all parties doesn't mean that the other person's losing.
Right.
So that would be kind of my tip.
Super dope. Also, how do you have time to read?
Actually, I listen to the audio when I'm driving.
Okay, noted. Audiobooks.
Audiobooks. I'm not really much of a reader, to be honest.
Me either.
The number of hours we spend in the car, I could get on board with audiobooks.
100%. Yes. I totally agree with that. Okay. Time for the lightning round.
Oh, I thought that we were already lightning.
Okay.
It's been lightning this whole time. And thunder. Okay, one negotiation move you swear by.
You first.
we just did it.
We're
You
like-
first. No, that's for real. You
That's
first.
true.
Like
That's
that is
true.
like you first is actually a negotiating tool.
Yeah.
Like you want the other party to speak up first. That if you're really like going at it, a you first is probably
Well, and one thing that I've definitely used on the listing side, like kind of going back to that, is having the buyer's agent actually, what's the word I'm looking for? Like negotiate against themselves. So where
This
you
was
actually
smart.
get
Like me
them-
versus me. I
well,
love
you
it.
kind of get them to say, you know, hey, like, you know, we like your offer. I'm not really sure if like the seller's going to take it, but like we really want to work with you. Like, you know, I mean, what do you think like a good counter offer would be that like we could give you? You know, like what do you think like they would take, right? And like you kind of have them tell you what the counter should be instead of you coming up with it, right? And so then you can come to your seller and be like,
lady's a genius.
hey,
I know.
so
I'm
this
like,
is where I actually think that they'll go. This was the offer, but here's where we really could probably get them to, you know? And a lot of times, like, you know, the agent on the other side, they also want to get the deal done, but a lot of times they'll give up their clients' cards. And so, and you know you're working
in pursuit of
a deal.
Of a deal.
Yeah.
But you also know when you're working with a really good agent on the other side,
Right.
when they won't give up their clients' cards. And then you're like, okay, I'm going to have a harder time on this one.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, this one's a little bit more seasoned.
Yeah, for sure. But I think that's a big tell, honestly, is
Because
is
it's you
how
first. That client's making you go first.
Yep.
Yeah.
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 So that, I think, is a good
I
tip.
like that. Okay. A book, course, or resource that transformed your approach.
Oh, well, I already gave
Besides
mine.
that, Tia.
Book, course, or research. When I was starting out, I memorized the Diana Kokoska listing presentation. I still do that. That's, I mean, as far as like starting out goes, memorize a good buyer's agent's presentation, memorize a good seller's presentation. I memorized Diana Kokoska's.
Yeah.
I think my mentor, my original mentor, when I was doing this, I was like, it doesn't really sound like me. And he's like, yeah, but you've closed no deals. So would you like to sound like someone that closed 108 deals last year?
Right.
Or someone that closed no
Zero.
deals? I was like, good point. Okay.
You're like,
Fair enough.
it will sound like me now.
Yeah.
I
Make it.
sound just like Diana Kokoska now. Yeah.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
Okay. Best advice you've ever received about negotiation.
Say less. That's
Yeah.
the best advice that I've ever
a good
received.
key.
Is I'm an over talker, so say less. I think would be my best advice for myself, and also that I've received from other people.
Yeah.
Is just, you know, I think it is easy to give up, you know, your
She's not
position.
presenting the information well right now.
Yeah, I'm still talking. Say less.
Say less. Just don't even say.
Done.
She's like, let me let you know what I mean by saying this.
Exactly. See, that's my problem.
Oh my
I'll echo
gosh.
that. That's a good one. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. You want to piggyback off that?
No, I'm
Okay.
like, that's a good one.
That is a
agree
good
with that.
one.
Yeah.
Like, I agree.
I agree.
I agree.
Oh, another one that I feel like you taught me, mirror and match.
Oh, yeah.
Ah,
Yeah.
it's a good one.
Yep. And I think also with mirror and match is sometimes naming or labeling what your the person you're negotiating with is actually feeling, because then they feel like you're hearing them and like relating to them, even though you're not actually giving anything on your side. You are just saying, you know, I hear that you are feeling X, Y, and Z, or, you know, is it true that you're upset about this, or what, you know what I mean? Like kind of labeling some of their emotions, because usually you are negotiating with an emotional party on one side or the other, because that is our transactions. And so that can be another way of getting them to feel like you understand them without actually moving at all on your position.
Right. I like that. Match the
That.
energy.
She's so good. She knows what I am thinking.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
That is
Just
that is
one
the best.
brave brainwave.
Yes, we're one. We are one.
One in the one.
Yeah, that's why the whole office thinks we're the same person.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, they do.
Thank goodness that you cut your hair, I guess. I
Right.
guess.
Yeah.
That's like the only
Honestly,
thing.
ruined it for
no,
me.
now if no one's watching the podcast, they're not going to know who's talking.
That's
They're going to
right.
be like, wait, was that Brittany or was that Tia?
We don't know. We have no idea.
We have no clue. How will they know?
How will
How will they
Well,
know?
you're going to have to watch it now, folks.
Yeah.
Facts. A quick one-word descriptor of your negotiation style.
My husband calls me a pit bull.
You know, it's so
Your
funny.
husband calls you a
I literally said that. I was like, well, is bulldog a good word?
That's, I guess, like I said, we're very similar. So whatever one word probably applies to both of us.
I mean, I think that we're both very confident and more on the aggressor side of a negotiation than to be the person that kind of sits back, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We don't have a problem with confrontation, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So we, I think, get the upper hand in negotiations often because we aren't bothered by
The tension
the
of
tension.
it.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I like that.
that's what Patrick says.
Yeah.
So, and I guess Richie
Yes.
is saying we are dog-like.
Dog.
We are.
Dog-like.
Yes.
We are dogs.
Yes. We are dogs.
All the cat people out there better be really scared.
I love that. So really, like, the big thing, like the big key takeaways, like, I've gotten from this entire thing is say less, mirror and match, and
Ask questions.
be a dog and ask questions.
Go
and-
dogs.
That's right, go dogs.
Mm-hmm.
UGA.
Yeah.
How about them dogs? Yeah, I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I
Thanks
love
for
all of
having
that.
us.
Yes,
We appreciate
and
it.
what's some motivation that you want to give to some new agents that are in the game, and what's something that you would give to them right now?
Some motivation.
I mean, it's a challenging market, but I think that the people that make it are the ones that stick out the shift, and so you just kind of have to. I think Tia and I are both very gritty people, and I think to be successful, especially in a shifting market, you really do have to have a lot of grit. You have to be the one that's going to go out there and like fight for the business. And I would just say to those that are feeling the struggle, like, even we feel the struggle. So, it's like there you got to have some sort of grit, I think, in this business, and that would be the big takeaway, I think, is just know that there's ups and downs, but you can
and have
through
a
it.
why,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know if you haven't figured out your why yet, then probably pause and figure that out.
Yeah,
'Cause
for sure.
Yeah.
that makes it easier to do stuff. And I know that Keller Williams especially throws around the big why, I think, a little bit casually. But I think that our industry has a lot of attention on it. From multiple sides, and I think it's pretty easy to assume what it is like.
Yeah.
And then I think when people get in it, it's less glamorous than it appears. And it's still a good career. I think I feel really blessed with with what it's done to for me and my family.
Same.
And I feel blessed. I mean, some of my best friends are now like previous clients. So, I feel pretty good about that. So I think, maybe hop off the roller coaster. You know what I mean? Just get up and do your job. I think we both had success when we both transferred here. Because you just get up and do your job.
Yep.
Just don't, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be like this big, emotional thing every single day.
Yep.
Sometimes you just have to get up, put your shoes on, make some calls, go on appointments, go to bed, do it again.
Yep.
It's
Just do the
maybe
thing.
not easy, but it is simple.
Yep.
And so if you
Consistency is key.
Yeah, I think that if people are having a hard time, just set a goal and do that. Make a certain amount of calls a day and do that. Make a certain amount of appointments a day and do that. Not get so dragged into all of it, because we are basically counselors with e-keys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we can hop on that. You know what I mean? It's easy to get dragged, the negotiations are taking me this way. Oh, the negotiations are taking me this way. It's just get up and do your job and, stay a little. We say that probably hypocritically, because I am, how many times I call her and I'm like, you won't believe it! I'm on the roller coaster! I'm on the roller coaster! But I think I'm most happy in our career when I am off the roller coaster and I'm just getting up, doing my job, going home, spending time with my babies, and going to bed. That's I guess my advice to folks. Is that clear? Was that concise?
I think so.
I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you ladies so much for coming on here.
Thank
I appreciate
you.
it a lot. And thanks folks for listening, and we will see y'all next time.